I get really happy when people engage enough to ask me questions that kind of make me realize I have an edge case. Um, so, for reference, this comment comes from a video where I talk about the maximum number of spatial dimensions that can exist in an infinite reality. And my answer was infinity minus one because, and I would encourage you to watch the video, but it's, you always perceive the above dimension as time, no matter what spatial dimension you're in. And so I think it's really funnily worded. Like, if a photon doesn't experience time, is it missing it? Of course, it's not. It's not. All right. So there was a video I made actually after I posted that on the two types of time. So um, I think that's a great one to watch, but no worries if not, because I'll do a quick overview. So basically, I talk about generative time and entropic time. So before I touch on that, there was also another comment left about how moving through these dimensions, like that aspect is time, but would time literally be a separate dimension? And so I'm going to answer that question hopefully with this response. So there's like an experiential frame rate going on in order to experience with governing laws and dynamism. And the way I kind of define that is like with the diagrams, a lot of diagrams, is consciousness is path traversal through infinite potentiality. That's awareness. Um, I bring up these diagrams a lot, but where you go from having, let's say like two universes, but within them there's this in the background a solid block of color, because the sphere points are so infinitely close and dense that it doesn't look like a bunch of dots, but a solid color. And that's the same color as the center of those bigger spheres. And so when you're moving from one universe to maybe another, or just moving in general, you will then look and see something like this, what I am proposing, because that is path traversal. So these are just points. They exist in potential, and as awareness moves as consciousness, the frame rate starts developing, and that's like, you can see it almost like a distance between these spheres. This is a better example, more specifically, and I would encourage you to maybe like rotate your phone a little bit, so the direction the arrow goes in the 360 degrees of possibility space, that trajectory, that line is the exploration, the arrow is the stabilization, and this kind of goes on, so on and so forth within that universe. So that's the path traversal. And why I bring this up is that is generative time. Generative time, I'm saying, you can move forwards and backwards. There's not an irreversible consequence. With entropic time, we have the arrow of time of past, present, future. We can't move backwards, and there are real material consequences. And the difference between generative time and entropic time is, with entropic time, that is when consciousness chooses to stabilize and provide what is a skeletal blueprint, the sphere point architecture, the nature of reality. Wherever consciousness chooses to stabilize, it can provide a skin to it, skin, meat, bones, whatever. It's a skeleton, but you add things on top of it, and this becomes material. That final dimension of time is likely less the material dimension of time, literally, and more so me saying that's the final like wrap up of dynamism of consciousness before it returns back to its sphere point, total awareness. It's totally self-realized. So photons don't have proper time. They have zero proper time. They follow like this null path. And that means like space and time, the interval, the impact of light within it is equally balanced. So no, photons aren't missing a dimension. They're definitely within our three dimensions. But I also wanted to make a video about this anyway, so this is a great segue. I wanted to talk about emergent properties of our universe. So I'm saying these are emergent properties because they require the foundation of the possibility space of three spatial dimensions to exist. So they would be light, sound, entropic time, material space, and gravity. Although I know there's some interdependence with gravity and space time, but they do require that structure to exist first. And I'm saying that the structure, the possibility space of three spatial dimensions is what allows ether, material space, to exist, for gravity to interact with space and time. And of course, light is going on in three dimensions as well. Sound is an example where there's the interdependence there. So you kind of need like materially three literal spatial dimensions. But if you can if you can treat your throat as like a sphere, so you make like the ah, like the full sound of the whole sphere, and then oh is like do all the vowels. Okay, I'm not gonna do it on camera, but then go from like the consonants all the way back, like the guttural kind of sound, all the way to your lips, like right. So it's it's not necessarily like it's forced to be in these locations. It's just which vantage point you are approaching this sphere from, which is like with the three dimensions. But all of sound that we are able to perceive already exists in three-dimensional space, and whatever we're able to have perceive in our hearing range, we create and construct reality with all of it. Something to think about. So if all of these emergent properties of our material universe are emergent from having three spatial dimensions as a possibility existing, then there's still the concept of those three spatial dimensions as a possibility existing. Where's that emerging from?